It's George with Recipes Made Easy. I'm here in Victoria in the kitchen of Brian Henusset. Brian had a comment regarding week 2 of Recipes Made Easy. He said the recipe was a bit too difficult. He just had a few too many ingredients for him. So I'm here to help Brian make a loaf of bread. He doesn't need quite so many ingredients for that. Brian, I understand you found last week's recipe just a bit too difficult.
Yes, George. I thought that there were far too many ingredients to go into it for somebody that cooks as little as I do. So I was looking for something with that would be a little bit easier to do. So then that would mean less ingredients.
Well, Brian, this week's recipe only has 4 ingredients. I think that will be easy enough for you. Okay, Brian, what we're going to do here is we're going to start with 3 cups of white flour.
All-purpose white flour, George?
All-purpose white flour will be just fine, Brian. Notice how Brian is measuring carefully. There's 1 cup. He's going for the 2nd cup now. Again, he's measuring carefully. Now he's going for the 3rd cup. Using the same technique. He's got the 3 cups in there. Okay, Brian, now what I need you to do is just put in 2 teaspoons of the dry active yeast there.
Is it okay if it's quick rise, George?
Quick rise will be just fine, Brian. And now what you want, Brian, is you want about 1.5 teaspoons of salt.
Is it okay if it's kosher?
Kosher salt will be great, Brian, and the recipe actually calls for 2 teaspoons, but we want to try to reduce the sodium count just a bit, so let's go with 1.5. Brian's stirring that all up now, mixing in the yeast, the salt, and the flour. Okay, what Brian's about to do now is adding 2 cups of warm water. Now he's going to stir that in. What Brian is going to do here, he's going to just flour the plate here. Just so the dough we have here doesn't stick to the plate. That looks good, Brian. Now, what you need to do now, Brian, you just need to dump that onto that flour there.
Hands floury?
Yeah, you should get your hands floury. That's a very good idea, Brian. Yeah, you're perfect. Perfect. And you want to dump that whole lot onto there. It's going to be a little bit gooey. Now you just want to roll that around just a little bit there, and you're just going to let it sit on a plate now. The oven has reached 450 degrees, so Brian is putting on his gloves for safety reasons. Doesn't want to burn himself. And he's taking the Dutch oven out of the oven. Safety first as he takes the lid off. Now what you got to do with that, Brian, you got to spray the inside with olive oil.
Okay. This is the olive oil here.
What Brian is doing here, he's spraying the inside of this Dutch oven with some olive oil. When I'm doing this, I usually recommend to do it a bit faster so you don't lose as much heat out of the Dutch oven there, but this is the first time for Brian, so yeah, you just dump it in there, Brian.
Is that proper dumping, George?
No, that looked good, Brian. Now what you want is lid on.
Okay.
and into the oven for half an hour. For half an hour. Brian's just going to go in the oven now and take the lid off. Now we suggest you do just like Brian, wear gloves here. This is going to be pretty hot. How's that looking there, Brian?
Oh, it's looking really delicious. Just needs to be browned up a bit, George.
That's looking pretty good, Brian.
Great, George.
Even though Brian doesn't have a lot of experience in the kitchen, he's managed to make a delicious loaf of bread with just 4 ingredients. If you found this video useful, please subscribe. And please join us for next week's video.